In an earlier video, we reviewed the 3 levels of expressiveness in the Institutional Grammar 2.0, IG Core, IG Extended, and IG Logico, and some of the concepts associated with each. In the next set of videos, we're going to go more in-depth on IG Extended and IG Logico. We'll show what coding institutional statements at both levels looks like, and what each level has to offer. In this video, we'll be looking at IG Extended. IG Extended is the next deepest level of expressiveness after IG Core. In IG Core, we're focused on identifying the different syntactic components of regulative and constitutive statements. IG Extended, meanwhile, emphasizes deep structural parsing of institutional statements. IG Extended allows us to capture more detailed institutional information than IG Core. It does this by focusing on select syntactic components, giving us a set of tools to analyze them more carefully. To illustrate what we mean, consider the following institutional statement. When an individual claims a pre-owned electric vehicle tax credit, that individual may not claim another pre-owned electric vehicle tax credit for a 3-year period. Here's what that statement looks like when coded according to IG Core. The IG Core gives us a bird's eye view of the institutional statement. But if we look more closely, we can see that some components, like the activation condition, have a lot going on in them. At the IG Core level, we don't have a way to unpack such complex components. But with IG Extended, we can analyze the structure not just of institutional statements, but of individual components as well. Let's stick with that activation condition. Because of its complexity, we can code it similarly to a regulative statement. Here's what that looks like. Though we can code it in this way, the activation condition isn't really an institutional statement. The activation condition isn't describing an institution, that is, a norm, rule, or a strategy, but rather a kind of behavior that someone might engage in. Thus, this activation condition is what we would call an institutional state. Institutional states describe a specific state of affairs and often act to condition an institutional statement in some way. The state of affairs described in an institutional state can either be a behavior, as in this example, or something about the environment in which the institution exists. Unlike institutional statements, institutional states don't perform any regulative or constitutive functions. When an individual syntactic component takes the form of an institutional state, this is referred to as component-level nesting. IG Core introduced horizontal and vertical nesting to describe how 2 or more institutional statements can be linked to one another. With IG Extended, we can see that individual components can be nested as well. Component-level nesting allows us to extract all the institutional information embedded in complex components. Returning to our example institutional statement, let's now look at the phrase pre-owned electric vehicle tax credit. Tax credit is the direct object, and that object has a series of properties associated with it. This then makes it an apt illustration of another IG Extended feature, the object property hierarchy. The object property hierarchy allows us to capture and describe the relationship between an object and its properties in situations where an object has multiple interconnected properties, as in this example. The object property hierarchy states that an object can have one or more properties. Those properties can be either simple or complex. Properties can themselves be objects and thus possess their own properties. And objects and their properties can have different kinds of relationships. For example, one property might qualify or condition another property. Pre-owned electric vehicle tax credit is an example where an object has properties that themselves have their own properties. First, it specifies that the credit is for vehicles, as opposed to, say, single-family homes. Then it qualifies that the credit is for electric vehicles. Owners of gas-powered vehicles need not apply. And then it further qualifies that the credit is for pre-owned electric vehicles. So owners of new electric vehicles aren't eligible for the credit. Along with the object property hierarchy, the IG Extended also offers a property typology that allows us to classify properties along different categories to capture additional institutional information. Here's what that typology looks like. At a general level, properties can be either quantitative, for example, 3 years, or qualitative, electric vehicles. Qualitative properties, in turn, can be further classified as simple, zero emissions vehicles, or complex, vehicles that meet the criteria specified in section 2.1.5. With the object property hierarchy and the property taxonomy, we've seen how IG Extended gives us tools to study the object in greater detail. IG Extended also introduces a context taxonomy to further capture how institutional statements are embedded within specific settings or environments. The context component can be sorted into 4 categories: substantive, procedural, aspirational, and situational. Substantive context gives information about the wider institutional setting. That information could be temporal, specifying points in time, durations, or frequencies; spatial, indicating location, direction, or path; or domainal, detailing an activity realm, a topical realm, or an existential realm. Procedural context offers information about any procedures that are involved. This can include an execution order for a set of tasks, references to a set of instructions, and guidance on method, means, and/or manners. Aspirational context captures motivations, objectives, and desires. Aspirational context can be classified as either purpose, the reason behind an action or an entity, or effect, the impact something is intended to have. Finally, situational context tells us about states of affairs, as well as specific changes or transitions that an institutional statement is linked to. For example, if there's a certain state to be achieved, or if an event causes something to happen. The context taxonomy helps move us away from looking just at the internal structure of institutional statements to paying more attention to meaning and the wider environment in which statements are situated. In IG Core, we learned that institutional statements can be either regulative or constitutive. In practice, however, the line between regulative and constitutive statements isn't always so cut and dry. Accordingly, IG Extended introduces the concept of hybrid and polymorphic institutional statements. Hybrid institutional statements contain both regulative and constitutive elements. Consider the following institutional statement. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation offers rebates to purchase zero-emission vehicles, and eligible vehicle buyers must apply for the rebate by December 31st. The first half of the statement, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation offers rebates to purchase zero-emission vehicles, is a constitutive statement, while the second half, eligible vehicle buyers must apply for the rebate by December 31st, is a regulative statement. Here's what the coding on that statement would look like. Polymorphic institutional statements, meanwhile, are statements that can be read in both regulative and constitutive terms. Consider the following statement. The Federal Transit Administration shall administer the Low or No Emission Grant (LONO) program. On the one hand, you can read this as a regulative statement that instructs the Federal Transit Administration to administer the grant program, or you can read it as a constitutive statement that identifies the administration of the grant program as one of the features of the Federal Transit Administration. Here's what the regulative and constitutive codings of this statement would look like. As this video has shown, IG Extended offers several tools that allow an analyst to extract greater information from specific components found in regulative and constitutive statements. These tools include component-level nesting, the object property hierarchy, the property typology, and the context taxonomy. IG Extended also complicates the distinction between regulative and constitutive statements by drawing our attention to the existence of hybrid and polymorphic institutional statements. Some of the features of IG Extended, like the context taxonomy, preview the types of analysis available through IG Logico, which focuses on the semantics of institutional statements.